2015, Milwaukee. Joseph Newgarden has just taken his first Indycar pole and leads the field for 250 laps in the Milwaukee Mile. The race was an exciting one. Juan Pablo Montoya nearly ripped a guy's leg off, Will Power hit the wall, and Sebastian Bourdais crossed the line to win his 34th race in IndyCar. A lot's changed in the 9 years since. Joseph Newgarden is now famous for winning 2 series championships and for being a bit of a crybaby. Will Power is still hitting the wall, and Sebastian Bourdais is pretty much fallen off the face of the earth. In other words, he's driving an IMSA. The Milwaukee Mile is back in 2024 though, with a double header around an oval like no other. So, let's get this comedy review on the road. It was a fairly light news week this week, with the big and frankly only stories surrounding Ed Carpenter at Ed Carpenter Racing. The 43-year-old apparent oval specialist has made a habit of only contesting those rounds for a fair few years now. But while the plan was to contest the final 3 of the season, he's decided that he isn't good enough anymore, and perhaps most self-deprecating of all is that he thinks Christian Rasmussen is better. Carpenter has opted out of the remaining races of 2024, putting Rasmussen in his place, the Dane thanking the team by slamming his car into the wall during practice. The racetrack was bound to catch a few out. With minimal banking, IndyCar drivers will now have to operate the brake, as well as turn left over the course of a lap. Joseph Newgarden had to steer a bit more left when Dale Coyne's Star of the Week, Catherine Legg, forgot she had mirrors in the early running. Romain Grosjean was also still trying to kill people after his terror attack last time out in Portland. Scotty Mack was the unconsensual recipient of his checkup, though the Penske driver lived to survive another day. Pato O'Ward escaped his own near-death experience, which was as usual triggered all by himself, though the Mexican would set an average speed good enough for third, 2 spots back on pace sitter Joseph Newgarden. The American would look to top qualifying too, however a 9th-place grid drop for race 1 would write him completely out of contention on his opening lap. It was still strong, however, good enough for second overall before the penalty, while saving enough life in the tyres to grab the P1 award for race 2 on his second lap. David Malukas was also flying, lining up third in race 1 as he chases his first Grand Prix victory, and runs away from Power, who will apparently stop at nothing to prevent that from happening. The 12 car needed a good result to keep the championship alive going into the finale at Nashville, and while he would beat leader Palou on both laps, that was rather helped by the Ganassi's being about as good at ovals as Chip Ganassi is at sticking to his diet plan. Lundqvist and Armstrong would look to buck that trend somewhat when they finished competitively for both races, though there was no stopping Scott McLaughlin, who soared to the top of the times on his first lap, and then narrowly missed out on securing the double as Newgarden retained his pole for race 2. We would only have to wait a handful of hours before the cars finally hit the track in anger, McLaughlin holding the lead, while Lundqvist put his foot down early and got ahead of Malukas. The biggest mover had to be Connor Daly at the back though, the 78 Juncos car getting past 11 drivers in the opening 4 laps, which is doubly impressive when we all know Canapino would have already found the wall by now. Things weren't so rosy on the other side of the garage, as it was lap 39 and Grosjean was already having a meltdown. He'd been fuel saving all race so far, despite the team never telling him to do that, and had now dropped like a stone, blaming it on the team's emailing system. Linus Lundqvist, meanwhile, took advantage of Kiffin Simpson, driving like Kiffin Simpson, to draft up to the back of and overtake Scotty Mack for the lead. Simpson then let his fellow Ganassi pass before turning into the first chicane on an oval when the 33s tried to do the same. It was around this point that the leading cars were beginning to pit, the undercut dominating the strategy and Herta cycling up to the front, while Ganassi spent a week getting Lundqvist tyres on and just plain forgot about Marcus Armstrong altogether. That's usually our signal for the first caution of the day, and it would finally occur on lap 80. It wouldn't be Colton, however, or at least not yet, as Catherine Legg decided to try and achieve the spin and win, or in her case, the spin and finished 19th. The caution caused a flurry of stops which completely shook up the order. Stingray was now in P2, which I would have been far more excited about if IndyCar weren't just casually showing a pit lane bowling compilation. And on the subject of safety, what the flying is this? Anyway, the restart would see Stingray break the record for time to plummet to the rear of the field on old tyres, and McLaughlin resumed the lead, followed closely by Herta. Santino Ferrucci took advantage of this to win this week's FP1 Biggest Bulls Award. This was the first of a handful of audacious moves over the course of the afternoon, the Ferret using his best friend Trump's near-death experience to guide his race car this weekend. Pato O'Ward was also on the charge, fighting up to the lead, which as it turned out was perfect timing as the Grosjean curse was about to strike the 28 again. Joseph Newgarden getting a free toe link adjustment as well. Both him and Marcus Ericsson were now out, and as usual, it was neither of their faults. O'Ward therefore led the restart ahead of Palou, who had been right behind the incident but escaped because he's the luckiest man on the f***ing planet and the IndyCar gods don't want a close title fight apparently. VK would remind us he existed on the restart as Ferrucci almost killed himself again. Herta hadn't fared so well out of the recent round of pit stops, and now found himself down an 8th. The bottle shows no mercy, however, and on lap 187, the 26 car's front right tyre made a bid for freedom. The resultant caution did something to the field. With this being a short oval, cars were all miles out of position. I didn't know what was going on, the commentators didn't know what was going on, and in the UK we also have Tom Gaymore in the booth. I don't even think he knows what day of the week it is, I'm not even going to bother asking him either. O'Ward would lead the restart for Ferrucci and Power, while Grosjean tried a new strat of driving as slowly as possible and screaming yellow like a brain-damaged vegetable to no avail. Colton Herta's day was also about to get worse. He'd been ordered to go to the back of the field for trying out Andretti's three-wheeled setup, and having decided that his race hadn't been f***ed over enough, the IndyCar stewards ordered the American to complete a stop-go penalty as well. Let's get back to the green flag then, and Power would make a move for second with 28 tours to go. All eyes were a little bit further back, however, as one of the Juncos cars was on fire, and it wasn't Roman this time. Conor Daly was flying, moving on to the rostrum in the closing stages and staying there until the checker. At the front, it was Pato O'Ward taking the win, McLaren wrapping up their record third in the season, with the 12 of Power keeping things interesting championship-wise in second. Usually that would be it, but Sunday would see us do it all again. Newgarden now leading the field and a safe distance away from Ericsson behind. Talk coming into this one was all about how Alex Palou could seize the championship. All of this talk proceeded to age like one of my videos when the DHL Honda told Palou his championship could basically go f*** itself. IndyCar was kind enough to wait for the championship leader, though after 5 laps under caution, they got bored and prepared to go green. Ganassi thus resorted to alternate methods, Lundqvist wiping out the wrong Penske on what would have been an aborted start anyway. And I've forgotten to mention this, but Lundqvist has been sponsored all year by American Legion, who help veterans get through their hardest moments. Like suddenly deciding you're going to be a Linus Lundqvist fan. All of this was huge for Power though. The number 12 driver was now poised to wipe out Alex Palou's championship advantage, as long as he keeps it pointing in the right direction of course. God, I really hope that doesn't come back to bite me later. So as we prepared for the restart, Palou was now out on circuit again, though he was 6 laps down and facing an almighty battle ahead of him. Never mind, his engine's gone again. As Palou played running simulator, we tried to get running again. McLaughlin leading Power as the pair did their best to escape the wrath of Linus Tech Tips behind. The DHL Honda would actually make it out of pit road again, as on the other end of the spectrum, Power was challenging and passing McLaughlin for the lead. Will would hold on to this through the first round of pit stops, and we ran green until the cars of Conor Daly and David Malukas simultaneously decided to kill themselves and neutralise the grid once again. The 12 car would lead the restart ahead of Rossi and McLaughlin. At this point, we'd learnt not to give a about that, and instead just watch Santino Ferrucci glide past another handful of cars, and I can't tell if this is really impressive or if the rest of the field is just scared of being sent up into the fucking stratosphere by this guy. This was already an exciting race, but if you were a fan of mechanical failures, you were probably dribbling into a puddle of your own cum by now. Race 1 winner O'Ward was next to pull into pit road with a gearbox that didn't want to gearbox anymore. There was no caution for that, nor was there one when the leaders attempted to pass Rasmussen, which if anything is character growth as we come to the end of this season. That meant another set of green flag pit stops, Scotty Mack and the 33s taking advantage of Power's old age to beat him out of pit road and snatch away the effective race lead. Or at least it would have been if Stingray Rob didn't like his theme tune so much and brought out the yellows. That actually meant Rossi and Dixon were now at the front, just don't ask me how. It wouldn't be long, however, before Rasmussen took my character growth comment and told me to go f*** myself with it, as he drove into the rear of High-Vis and wiped the 15 car out of the running. I'd just like to pause to apologise here, as I feel like I'm swearing a lot towards the end of this one. Frankly, it's probably just because I'm tired and want this to go green, and for f***'s sake, Power, you had one f***ing job, you f***ing. So Power spun round and pitted twice for some reason. That put him a lap down and left Penske's hopes in the hands of Scott McLaughlin. Herta, Ferrucci and Ericsson, meanwhile, thought it would be a smart move to take the 3 most crash-prone drivers in the series and go side by side, though through some divine act, all emerged unscathed. Up at the front, McLaughlin was chasing a fuel and tyre-saving Herta for the win. The gap was about 10 seconds, yet in the time it took for one of NBC's commercial breaks, the 3-car had teleported to sniffing distance of the 26's anus. Frankly, this should have been an easy pass for McLaughlin, but Herta wouldn't be going down without a fight, giving it some of the best oval racing I've ever seen, even if from Colton's point of view it was completely and utterly futile. We've been green for a while now, and we're entering the final 30 laps of the Grand Prix. Tech Tip's journey of self-harm wasn't over yet though, as he slammed the wall, and while he avoided bringing out the caution, yeah, you know what to expect by now. He may not have known it, but Stingray Rob had just given Power the opportunity to get back on the lead lap and fight for some positions in the closing stages. McLaren, though, still hadn't given up on a surprise win for Alexander Rossi. Unfortunately, he had, and the 7 car began to tumble down the order on the restart. In his place was Scott Dixon, who made the charge after leader McLaughlin. Scotty Mag had mastered the restart, however, building enough of a gap to defend from the Ganassi to the flag and taking yet another win in IndyCar 2024. Dixon and Herter rounded out the podium, while Power took the gift from Stingray and spat it back out in his face as he came home 10th. He still brings the gap down in the championship to 33 points, and we may still be on for a title showdown when IndyCar heads to its finale in Nashville in just a couple of weeks' time. But before we even start to think about that, what a race, what a weekend. There are people out there saying this was one of the best oval races of all time. I'm not quite sure I agree with that one. I can think of a few Indy 500s I'd rate higher. Plus, Stingray never led here, did he? One thing is for sure though, and that's whoever's idea it was to ditch this race after 2015 was a complete and utter idiot. Fingers crossed the Milwaukee Mile is here to stay this time. Let me know what you thought of the weekend down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, I've been covering the entire IndyCar season in 2024, so check out the playlist linked on screen now to watch another one. I'd appreciate it if you left a like and got subscribed to help the channel grow, and a big thank you to the members and patrons who got early previews to this one. If that sounds interesting to you, or you'd just like to further support me and the channel, then check out the links in the description down below. Now I'll be back very soon with another video, but until then, have a good one.